to the Top Corner podcast, episode number 25. I think that's the best way we've started the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know whether Rowan can still hear us or not. Rowan, if you can hear us, put your thumbs up. You can indeed. Yes, we like to see it. How we all do. Welcome to the podcast, one and all. Episode 25 already. We're absolutely flying through them. As always, not in the studio, as I say every single week. I'm joined by Kieran D.
Hello.
L.
Hi.
And we have Rowan. He's coming off mute. There we go. How are we doing? Are we all good this week?
I'm good, thank you.
In this weather, outside.
It's spraying summer.
Oh, there we go. Keeping himself nice and cool in this weather. But no, we've got a very, very jam-packed episode today. Loads to talk about. We've got, of course, all our fixtures from the previous week, the Bundesliga, and some massive, massive fixtures to come over the next week, as we do have some midweek games coming up in the Bundesliga, as always. Chris, before the show started, unfortunately, one of our regular members of the podcast, he can't be with us today. He won't be able to watch the podcast tonight as I'm at work. I hope you are all safe and keeping well. So thank you very much, Chris. Hopefully you have a good time at work and stay safe, of course, in this weather and around the situation. So before we do the way that the stream is going to work today is that we have our usual wheel, which is the decide the fixtures that we've got coming up. A little bit later on that we're going to be watching on Saturday. And we also have our fixtures we previously talked about last week, which we have our score predictions that we had. We do have a league table, which I've set up. Now, before we start, I always like to have a little bit of a piece to kick us off. That isn't anything to do with the situation that's going on. So today we're going to talk about Swindon Town. Now, it seems very, very random to talk about Swindon Town. You might have heard in the EFL they're having a little bit of a problem right now, money-wise, of course. They're probably not the only club having an issue in real life with money, of course, the coronavirus situation. Now, I don't know if any of you guys saw that Gareth Barry was trending last night on Twitter. Now, you're probably going to be asking me the question of why am I linking together Gareth Barry and Swindon Town? Well, bizarre news came out last night and in the afternoon. Apparently, Swindon's owner is in serious trouble with the club. So basically, there are two people claiming they own a part of Swindon. Case number one was there was an investor which was suing Swindon over claiming that he owns 15% of the club. Swindon's owner admits he doesn't want to register the investor as a shareholder. Now, the interesting one was case number two. Now, a football agent came out suing Swindon, so there's two cases going on, claiming that he owned 50% of the club.
Jesus.
Swindon's owner then came out and said, no, I didn't sell it to you. I actually sold it to Gareth Barry. That is genuinely the defence case that came out. He also claims he could not sell the club to an American company called Able, as it's likely the club would go into administration. And of course, it's still down to Gareth Barry as well, because he owns 50% of the club. Now, the question I'm going to ask you today, if you were to wake up tomorrow morning, and let's say your owner had gone and there was a new owner in, but it had to be a football player. Who would the football player be? That would be in charge of the club. They don't have to play for you. It can be absolutely anyone.
I mean, the smart one would be a Ronaldo or Messi because of the money. But I would love to see N'Golo Kante.
No,
because he just seems like such a nice guy that I don't think he'd be able to cope under the pressure of trying to run a football club.
I mean,
it's weird.
As if that was mine.
It was my go-to. It just seems so nice. And if not, we'll take David Wheater.
I was going to say, what's been missing at Hull is the feel-good factor. And who's going to be always smiling? N'Golo! Oh.
I mean,
Jimmy
it'd be
Ballard's
interesting
another
as well for a couple of you guys in the comments, of course, that are here today to tell us. I mean, Bernardo's straight away put in, Kepa is already a manager, so obviously it must be him. And then Chloe's put, hi lads, how are you? We're all good, thank you very much.
I rewatched the FA Cup final where the strangest situation ever. Like, it just, you watch it and you think, Sarri's got to go, like, take him off here. And I just want to see more players just go, I'm not coming off. No.
I don't think you can legally do it. Well, legally, I say you can legally do it. But
Kepa
I just don't think he did, didn't he? He did. I don't know what going through his head.
Madman, isn't he? An absolute madman.
No. They lost on pen.
That's why he brought on Caballero.
Yeah. Kepa got his hand to one of them and it went in. And he was just like, well, Caballero would have saved it.
Ronaldo's put apparently the player at Spurs. Point to Eric Dyer being the best bet to a manager.
I hate Eric Dyer.
Kieran, who would you have managing United or like owning Man United? Because you're the biggest club out of us all. So you need a big manager.
Wayne Rooney. I'd love to see Wayne Rooney manage.
Oh, we're talking about managers. I thought we were
No,
talking about
owner.
chairman, sorry.
Oh, I'd love to see
owner
as well. He's just such a legend of the club. I'd love to see him manage Man United, especially.
Go on, Dane Windass. Give me Dane Windass.
David Milo.
We're allowed legends. Chris Taylor, a legend of the EFL.
So bad.
He's an EFL legend.
I thought long and hard about my decision of which player I'd like to own Rotherham, and I thought in my head, well, if there's anyone who's going to be a great person to have, you wake up the next morning and you don't think, oh shit, my club's going to go into financial problems. I'd take Andrea Pirlo, a calm, confident, competent man that know how to run his club. He doesn't take any shit. He's happy. He's a very serious person. If you're not doing good, he'll boot you out of the club. If Paul Warne had a bad day, see you later, mate. Pirlo will kick you out of the club.
I want Xabi Alonso, because if we were going bad, he feels like he could smooth talk his way to making me feel like I'm in love with the club. I feel like
or he'll just take a modelling contract or something.
Yeah, no, you'll have like Calvin Klein as your shirt sponsor for next season. In fact, it'd be like your club calendar and everybody in like Calvin Klein shorts as well, wouldn't it?
Tommy, you feel like a proper bra rather than a sports one.
I mean, Benalda's put about the Rooney thing. Rooney could be a manager for sure. Lots of knowledge and experience. Probably has an eye for talent. I mean, we're already seeing him do a pretty decent job, not just as a player, but in the background of Derby County as well. I think perfectly as you said, Kieran D. I think we'll definitely see him as a manager in the next couple of years. I did say to Kieran D before actually. What about David Beckham? Very similar to Xabi Alonso. He'd just get you a shit ton of cash and have a pretty decent sponsor on as well. So there's loads of options, and of course for anybody, as my camera goes blurry for the 16th billionth time. There we go.
I'd like to see Akin Fenwar own a club someday. I'd like to see Adebayo Akin Fenwar.
He's going to have shares in #United. I swear to God he will.
Wasn't he like the club chairman or manager or something in like one of the first videos?
When he used to do it, he used to go, "Oh, it's an anonymous chairman," which inevitably turned out to be surprise, Spencer.
Yeah,
everyone thought it could have been Akfenwa.
Like we weren't all sat there for every episode going, "Yeah, no, there's no anonymous manager. We don't know who it is. Who could it be?" God,
it's like the old school FIFA player. Who could it possibly be?
Yeah. But of course, very quickly before I go to the next point, Benaldo said, "Do you think Buffon will make a good manager?"
Yeah.
If Pirlo could be a good manager, I think Buffon could be a good manager. They've both got tons of experience. Obviously, they've got that competitive nature.
You have to wheel him off the pitch first, because I swear he's playing till he wins the Champions League. He's playing until he wins the Champions League.
I think he's going to manage and still never win the Champions League. I genuinely do. I think someday he will manage Juventus, and he probably still won't win the Champions League.
Sad.
The worst thing is, though, you think about it, if they do, let's say Buffon ever does manage, if there is one player with the most experience probably in world football of losing finals, it's Gigi Buffon. He should know how to talk up his players to win a final.
Go on. No.
I was just going to say, it was Jurgen
Mine's
Klopp
completely off topic.
up until the Champions League final. Because he lost a stupid amount of finals.
You think about it.
What I was going to say was, go on, Josh, go on. Mine is completely off topic.
No, I was going to say before, you think about like the Champions League final when they played at Wembley against Bayern, and wasn't it like Robben last minute with the winner?
Yeah.
Multiple finals like that. But what was your point?
What I was going to say was, have you seen Sunderland Till I Die season 2 yet?
I'm not going to lie, I haven't actually. I haven't got around to watching it.
They lose the bloody, what is it, the Checker Trade Trophy final. And honestly, have you watched it, Kieran?
I watched it the day it came out on April Fool's Day.
Timed that well, didn't they?
It is honestly, it's not as good as season 1. It'll never be as good as season.
It's good to watch though.
Yeah, and also they're not the worst owners in the world, but Sunderland fans aren't a fan of them anymore. I've been seeing it all over Twitter.
They're supposed to be selling up, aren't they?
Well,
yeah, no.
He says in his documentary he doesn't want to outstay his welcome, and I just see all over Twitter all the time. She said you won't outstay your welcome, so basically piss off.
Yeah, and effectively, look at Mike Ashley. He was supposed to have gone about 15 years ago, and he's still there now, even with all that talk of the takeover.
We've been on sale for fucking 3 years. We're
still waiting.
Yeah,
I think Rowan should be back in a couple of minutes' time. I don't know whether he's moved inside because of his connection. So before we really go into anything serious, we'll talk about the previous week's games and when Rowan pops in.
Yeah, we had a good watch along, didn't we, on Saturday?
Very, very good. Some fantastic games that were going on, of course. We'll very briefly talk about those games in a moment's time. In terms of the games this week, there we go. Rowan is back. Should be able to add him in. There we go. Rowan is back. We'd love to see it. So this week, we're going to have less games to talk about for next week, just because there are a lot of games to be played. Of course, they're now playing games every single midweek, pretty much, for the next month. So we would have had to have covered 18 games in total, which I think would be absolutely ludicrous. So this week, I've decided to pick out the top table games. There's some massive matches coming along across the week and the midweek. Most importantly, we do have some midweek games coming along. So the way that we're going to work, as Roman disappears again, vanishing act. Should be back in a moment. The way it's going to work, we're going to talk through the previous week's games very briefly. I'll talk through your score predictions. Of course, the league table is set up. It'll be interesting, of course, how that is going to work. For every prediction that is correct, you will get 3 points on the Bundesliga table. Of course, we're only doing this for the 9 matches that are left. There have been people that have picked up points. I can say that for sure. There's points available. Tell you what, there's more than one person that picked up points this week.
I think it's you and Kieran Dillon. I'm not gonna. I think it's you and Kieran Dillon.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to spoil it. I think Roman's back. There we go.
Hello, Rowan.
Sorry, guys. I'm having laggy issues, but I think I fixed it.
It's all right. If you do need to pop out, and send me a message on Messenger, and I can always come off the PowerPoint and that, and add you back in if you do disconnect.
I think we're
nice. We'll go into the first game. Of course, we're talking about the games of the previous week. And of course, we all watched a different game in the background on Saturday. We're going to be doing that again. We'll talk about that a little bit later on within the show. But of course, the biggest game of the weekend was the Revere Derby in terms of the stature. Rowan, you watched this one. Dortmund 4, Schalke 0. What a game.
Yeah, it was. I think the first half, Schalke... For the first 15 minutes, Schalke looked like the better team. For sure, they were making great chances. Serdar looking quite impressive. And then as soon as Dortmund got the first goal, Schalke looked out of it. Second goal came in just on half time. You didn't expect Schalke to come back, even if it was 2-0. The way they were playing weren't. And then the extra 2 goals just was a misery compiler, basically. I mean, the standout players for Schalke, Sane at the back was great. I mentioned him. Serdar was good as well, but they would know what it was up front. They just didn't have a threat. And unlike Dortmund, where Julian Brandt got man of the match, who was Bundesliga's match day of the match.
You can do it.
I know. I meant Rafael Guerrero played great. Haaland played as Haaland plays, stepping up when he needs to. And yeah, they just outclassed them.
I'm really surprised overall. I put down Dortmund. They're now 4 points behind Bayern Munich. It's very, very tight right now. Of course, a loss potentially next week in the game we'll talk about a little bit later on could really blow it. Amount of proportion, to be honest. Of course, they have got that big game, Der Klassiker, which we'll talk about later on, but they've got another big game even before that. A couple of other points as well, of course. Schalke dropping down the table even more now. They are desperately fighting for that Europa League spot, of course, with that loss in their game. It's really put them down, and the other teams like Freiburg that are starting to pull above them. Now, in terms of the predictions that you guys put, of course, I'll show you the table at the very end of these last week result games we've looked at. KD, you put down 2-1 in this match to Dortmund. So you did put a win, but unfortunately not the right score. Kieran L, you went 3-2 to Dortmund. So unfortunate on that one. I went 1-0 to Dortmund, so quite far off. And Rowan, you put down 1-1. So in terms of score predictions, no one was really close in this department. So no points on the board, unfortunately. Just to give you a heads up, Rowan, for every person that gets one correct, you get 3 points on the board.
Okay.
If two of you get it correct at the same time, 1 point each as a draw.
Oh,
that's how it's going to work.
All right.
That's fair, I think. If you guys are okay with that.
Score, so we can guess the same scores now.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of times where, especially last week as well, where a couple of us were going, we wanted that score and we didn't get to get it. Of course, I nicked your scores probably more times than anyone else did, Rowan. So
yeah.
I think it's fair to make sure everybody could get each of the scores if you want to, and at least you can get a point on the board in that respect.
Yeah.
So the next game, I'm not going to try and fob myself off this week because you might remember last week I got the athletic sponsor, which I didn't realise where I'd put it. So I'm trying very hard to remember off the top of my head where I put it, so I don't try and go over the top of where we are with the show. But the next game we're going to talk about is Hoffenheim 0, Hertha Berlin 3. Now, Kieran D, you watched this game, and I think we talked about this one before, and we said it'll be an interesting one in the terms of Hertha Berlin. They're towards the bottom of the table, trying to fight for survival. Hoffenheim, they've been struggling before, still trying to push for a Europa League spot. It turned out to be quite an impressive game of football, just not for Hoffenheim. Hertha Berlin getting 3 goals and 3 points on the board.
No, it was a good game, to be fair, a good game to watch. It's similar to Dortmund, really. As soon as Hertha Berlin got the first, Hoffenheim looked out of it. But the first half was really entertaining. It was back and forth. A lot of missed chances. Hoffenheim missed 2 glorious chances to take the lead. 2 pretty much open goals, which it was just unfortunate that it fell to Posch, one of the centre-backs, for one of the finishes. It could have put Hoffenheim 1-0 up, could be a very different game. But the second goal was absolutely magnificent. Mittelstadt, probably the man of the match. Not actually a left winger, a left back, putting a beautiful ball down line, and just the experience of Ibisevic to be in that position and just guide the ball home without even moving the power of the ball. It was a good game to watch, and there were some really good goals, especially Matthias Cunha's goal as well. The last goal, as you just cutting down the line past the defender and just put it top corner. It was a great game to watch, and Hertha Berlin probably going to take some momentum out of that game, for sure.
Unexpected result, I think. I don't think any of us expected them to win this game 3-0. I
didn't expect it to be so comfortable for them. But like I said, after the first goal went in, it just seemed to be like all Hertha Berlin.
I mean, I put a couple of stats down just so, of course, we've got a little bit of information for this game as well. It's a weird one for Hertha Berlin because, of course, after this massive win where it's now Hoffenheim of dropping down there in 9th, Hertha Berlin is sitting 11th, which they're 8 points above the relegation playoff spot, but 8 points below the Europa League spot where Wolfsburg sit in 6th. So they're in a position right now where the season's still well and truly in the balance. It just all depends on which way the momentum could go in terms of whether they'll be able to push and try and maybe go for a Europa League spot at this stage of the season, or maybe, as we said before, if they do, next week lose and other teams win, we might already see their season pretty much over from this break. In terms of the results we put down for this game, Kieran D, you put down a 3-1 win for Hoffenheim, so unlucky on that one. Kieran L, you put down a 1-1 draw, so quite far off there. I put down a 3-2 win for Hertha Berlin, which is unfortunate. I know you said Hoffenheim had a couple of chances, didn't they? When
they should have taken down. Like just on half time, I think it was. The ball was fizzed in from right hand side, and it was just an easy volley into the back corner. Just completely mistimed it, put over top of crossbar. So, unfortunately, my prediction is still quite far off in terms of the goals. And, Rowan, you put down a 0-0 draw for this game. I think, as once again, we didn't really expect many goals to be going the way of Hertha Berlin. But, unfortunately, still no points on the board there.
I think we didn't know really how all the games were going to go, considering it was the first game. So, I think this week's predictions probably will be a lot closer, but, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think as well, a lot of teams, especially this week as well, it will be their first game back at home, of course. Most of the teams, for example, Leverkusen played away on Monday night. They'll be playing at home again. So it'll be interesting to see maybe whether the dynamic changes or not. But we go into our next game, of course. We're going to try and cover all the 9 games as quickly as we can here. Augsburg 1, Wolfsburg 2. This game had quite a bit of drama in it. Kieran, you watched this one. Augsburg, they could have nicked a point in this game, but Wolfsburg with a late winner thanks to Daniel Ginczek. Dramatic game.
Yeah. On the front of it, it sounds very interesting, but God, did it take a while to get going. First 40 odd minutes, it was just I'm scarce trying to think of some chances for the first 40 minutes. And then there was a brilliant ball whipped in midway through the Augsburg half from the left back Ottavio, which found the head of Zach Steffen, who powered the header in to make it 1-0 to Wolfsburg just before half time. But what I will give credit to is the fullback, who usually when you think of Wolfsburg at left back, if you've played FIFA or if you just know about Wolfsburg, everyone thinks, well, it's Jeremy Rousselon's position. That's where Rousselon would play. But no, on this occasion it was Ottavio and he justified his selection. Then Augsburg got one back. Oh, bloody hell, I can't remember who did it. Oh, I do remember. Of course I do. It was John Brooks, technically, who headed it past his own goalkeeper, but his own goalkeeper saved it onto the bar and it fell to Jedvaj. I'm talking a millimetre out, and he headed it into the back of the net. Then Augsburg took the lead, but it was ruled out because their star man, Niederlechner, was in an offside position and ducked a header from substitute Udikai. And as you said, that came back to rue them because in the last minute, Mbabu, with some brilliant work down the right, tapped it past his opposing fullback, squared it to Ginczek, who poked it home. And I think a draw would have been justified, but Wolfsburg will be very happy they can keep tabs on the European spots.
I think Udikai will be the one who's most disappointed because I'm pretty sure I remember hadn't he just come on as well? I think it was like a minute or two after he'd just come on he'd scored.
I was thinking, what a super sub. We thought of bringing on a centre back and it working absolute wonders, and it almost did. But Niederlechner, I think, was the problem, but because he might have been in the goalkeeper's eye. It was a tough decision, I think, overall.
And unfortunately, Augsburg's hero this season turned villain. As I said, it could have been a very, very important point for Augsburg. Of course, they are still fighting for survival. And to be desperately honest, they really needed that point after one of Sunday's fixtures. Saw Mainz pick up at a very valuable point in that game. As for Wolfsburg, they now sit in 6th. Fantastic result for them. They do, of course, occupy the Europa League spots. And they're hoping to push on for the rest of the season. They're now 7 games, as far as I'm correct. Of course, we'll talk a little bit more about Wolfsburg later on. They've got some massive fixtures coming up. 7 games unbeaten, as far as I am correct. Now, in terms of score predictions, once again, we have our first 3 points on the board because Kieran D, you pinned the tail on the donkey. Oh, yes. 2-1 Wolfsburg. You hit the nail on the head there. Easy points. You seem to be flying with the predictions as you always do.
Thank you.
Kieran L, you put 3-1 Wolfsburg.
Because when Kieran D said 2-1, I went, oh crap, you've took mine, so I'll go a goal extra. And I bloody missed it.
First.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I changed the rules, because I thought it seems fair for us to be able to, of course, all predict. If you want to predict a similar score, then we should be able to. And we, if 2 of us predict, we can take the point. I predicted 1-1 in this game. It could have happened, but of course, plenty of goals in this one. Even though, as you said, it did take quite a while for this one to really kick in. And Rowan, you did predict a Wolfsburg win. But unfortunately, it was only a 1-0 one. Apparently, does Rowan need added back in again? There we go. You're back in. There we go.
I just went to promote the thing on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I couldn't hear Kieran or anyone. It was just a wind whistle, and then I could hear Kieran, but I couldn't hear Josh. But I think I fixed it now. I think we're all right.
Well, I was just saying before, we're just talking through the score predictions.
I heard it.
You got that one? Oh, nice.
Eventually,
perfect. So, unfortunately, you did predict a win, but no points there. So, KD, the first 3 points on the board of our Bundesliga predictions is flying through on this one already. Next game we're going to talk about from last week. It was the best game of the weekend. The goal thriller that was Dusseldorf versus Paderborn. It was a 0-0 one. But
do you remember when that wheel? Oh, go on. Do you remember when that wheel was spinning and no one wanted it? Here's why. Why no one really wanted it.
It's true, though, isn't it?
Now, even though this game did end 0-0, this game really should have had a fair amount of goals in it for Dusseldorf. We talked about it on the watch-along that we did on Saturday. When we looked at the lineups, we were very shocked to see that their main striker, Ruben Hennings, who'd scored 11 goals this season, wasn't in the side. And we were thinking to ourselves, well, this is bound to end 0-0. It exactly did. However, Dusseldorf hit the bar and post 4 times in this match. Borussia hit it twice, and they will definitely be coming out of this game ruin their missed chances. Of course, this is a relegation survival game. Paderborn at the bottom of the league desperately needed points to keep up the race with Dusseldorf in the playoff spots. But I think the happier of the sides will be Dusseldorf, of course. Werder Bremen, I think, are only 3 or 4 points behind them. And a point here after Werder Bremen's loss on Monday will definitely come in handy. But of course, 3 points would have been so valuable because Mainz dropped points as well, which we talked about them a little bit later on. So unfortunately, a game which we did say, I think one of us or a couple of us said that even though a draw, it isn't too bad. I think Dusseldorf will certainly be ruining their missed chances.
Go on.
No, you go. You go, Sam. You go.
I think it's better for Paderborn because they can now go into that Hoffenheim game off the back of not losing. And Hoffenheim just got smashed at home 3-0 by Hertha. I think Paderborn, if they were to pick up a win this weekend, it'd be massive for their confidence and their chance to stay. You see, they picked up a point on Werder Bremen on after the Monday night fixture after they got hammered by Leverkusen. It's good for Paderborn to just go in with that bit of confidence into the next game because I'm pretty confident that they can beat Hoffenheim. Thank you. After watching them on Saturday, they can't defend. And if Paderborn get some balls in boxes, they've got to have a chance of winning. They need to pick points up somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, no, the pressure's on. I mean, of course, as the teams above them, of course, Dusseldorf picked up a point in this game. Werder Bremen, of course, losing, so that's helped them out massively. But other teams like Mainz and Augsburg very nearly picked up a point. The pressure is on them.
I was going to argue that, to be fair, I know you said Mainz dropped points, but the position they were in, they gained a point because they were 2-0 down and they were looking dead and buried come midway through the second half, and then obviously they made a substitution and it changed the whole game. So I'd arguably say Mainz shown a bit of fight back spirit this weekend, and they actually, for Mainz's credit, there was a guy in the midfield that from minute 1 stole the show. I don't know if we'll talk about that game later, so I'll leave his name out for now. But I think Mainz showed enough to me that these two teams who drew 0-0 here, they'd get beat by Mainz because Mainz showed me a lot on Sunday.
I think Mainz have more goal scorers than these two teams. You know, like we talked about, Hennings is the only real goal scorer. There's not a recognised goal scorer for Paderborn. Whereas in the Mainz team, there's quite a few, like Kaison, I can think of the top of my head. What's the other guy that plays up front with him called?
Honigstein, the Austrian striker. He's been on fire. They've got the Liverpool loanee Taiwo, who scored at the weekend as well.
There's more recognised goal scorers in the Mainz team than the Dusseldorf and Paderborn team put together, really.
And that's where it's so crucial at this stage of the season. You know, we talked about this game before being a very big relegation battle, and it really does show, as we've just talked about very briefly there, the I'm trying to think of the word, I'm trying to think the quality. That's it. The quality of the players between these sides are so different. You compare the Dusseldorf team to the Mainz team, and straight away the one thing we've picked out is that Mainz has more goal scorers, and that will come crucial for a relegation side this season. Unfortunately, when you look at a team like Dusseldorf and Paderborn, there aren't really any, bar one in Dusseldorf, standout players that you could really say would go into another side that was maybe above them. I don't know whether you guys would disagree with that or.
I like Ayan. I think he's an okay centre back. They do have the American goalkeeper that I can't remember the bloody name of because he's on loan. Is he on loan from Man City?
He is indeed.
Yeah, he's a very good goalkeeper, but at this point in the game, it's fine not conceding, but if you can't score, you're only ever picking up 1 point. And that's literally what was there to their detriment this weekend because, as we described the game, Paderborn's man of the match was the post. You had to win that game. But that they'll come back, and I think if this is a game that inevitably sends them down, they'll be very disappointed.
Yeah. It was not an easily winnable, but for both teams, it was a game that if they win that, their chances of staying up went up drastically. Yet both teams just didn't have the end product.
I mean, if you think about it, Dusseldorf got let off massively because Mainz didn't win and Werder Bremen didn't win either. They got a massive let off by not winning that game.
And it's results like these where, as we've said before, we could come back to haunt them at the end of the season. There's only 8 games left. That picking up these points against these smaller teams, they're very sparse because some of these big clubs they've got to face. I think in a couple of weeks' time, Dusseldorf and Paderborn have both got to face Dortmund and Bayern Munich at some point, which are games which inevitably it'll be very hard for them to pick up points. So once again, it could be brewing missed chances.
Yeah, I think I said last week something like, I don't see Paderborn going into a game thinking we can win this game. Like, you've got to pick any points up you can, really. I mean, it is a decent point for Paderborn, but surely they'd have preferred to win. And, obviously everyone prefers to win, but...
Paderborn will be happier than Dusseldorf, I would argue.
I think that as well.
Because Dusseldorf could have peeled a little bit away. Paderborn are just constantly trying to keep within a chance. So an extra point for them keeps them within the race. I mean, to be fair, I think we all believe in this chat that Paderborn's going down, but the point kept them with a chance. Whereas if they'd have lost this game, I think we'd have been waving them goodbye already.
Yeah, now in terms of the score predictions for this game, Kieran D, you went for 3-1 Dusseldorf. Could have happened had they not hit the post 600 times. Kieran L, you went 1-0 to Dusseldorf.
Ooh.
I was close.
I went 0-0, so there are points on the board for me there.
Congratulations.
3 points. Now, I feel like I might have made a mistake with the table and given myself a point, so I might have made a mistake with the table. I've only just thought that off the top of my head. As for Rowan, you went for a 1-0 win as well to Dusseldorf. So, unfortunately, no points for you boys. I do pick up the 3 points in that one, but I might have accidentally put myself down as 1 point, not 3. So, the table might be wrong. I'm rigging it for you guys. Advantage for you. Next game, Leipzig 1, Freiburg 1. This game was the one that I watched on Saturday, and it was full of drama. Very, very late on in this game, Leipzig had a ridiculous amount of shots. I'm talking 20-plus shots in this game. Freiburg only had about 6 or 7. They kept resolute. The first goal that went in was from Manuel Gould, the centre-back. It was a very bizarre backheel goal. He went to go and backheel it with his right foot. It clipped off his left foot by luck and went into the back of the net. Gladbach was definitely not saving it, of course, with a deflection. I absolutely meant it. As we said before, centre-backs are going to come out and say they meant it. They're not going to say, no, it was just luck.
Gebre Selassie's goal, wasn't it, on Monday night?
Yeah, no, we had a couple of back heels, didn't we, this weekend?
What have they been teaching that in training? all routines that flick on by defenders.
All the defenders trying to outscore each other with the back heels this weekend. Mad.
But, Kieran, I was arguing with you. Gebre Selassie meant it. I'm sorry, I believe he meant it. I
think he did mean that because it looked a lot more believable than Gould's goal did.
Yeah, no, Gould's goal, when I saw it going, I had to watch it back a couple of times on the replay because it was like, obviously, he'd gone to backheel it, but you could see there was a blatant deflection off his left foot that just meant Gladbach wasn't going to be able to save it.
His football intelligence is in the next year.
And then Leipzig, they did actually get a goal back in this game. Now, you might remember on the watch along that I did, I was slagging off Poulsen, who, in my opinion, had a terrible game, and then 1 minute later decided to go and score a powering header into the back of the net to make it 1-1. And I stick by my words. I do think he had a pretty poor game up until the goal, but I feel like he might have been listening in to the watch along and thought, sod it, I'm going to score a header and prove him wrong.
I do feel like Poulsen's one of them players. To be fair, give him 1 chance, he'll probably score 1. Give him 15 chances, he'll still only score 1. It's just that type of striker. He doesn't. Yeah. I can't think of anyone to compare him to, but he's not the most clinical. We'll leave it at that. We'll be polite. He's not the most clinical.
That header was really good, though.
I think the thing, though, with Poulsen is because of his stature and his build and his height, if you just keep throwing the ball and curling it towards his head, eventually he's going to have to score 1 because of his height. There are not many defenders in the Bundesliga that are of a similar height to him. You know, I'm thinking off the top of my head, you've got players who are like 6'4" and 6'5". You've got, Saul at Bayern. You've got Fogger at Werder Bremen. In terms of the rest of them, most defenders in the Bundesliga, they are 6'1", 6'2". So he's got quite a decent height advantage. And I just feel like eventually, if you chucked 100 crosses at him, He's got to score a couple at the very least, because defenders just physically cannot defend against him.
He's got all the attributes. For his height, he's reasonably fast.
He's rapid.
If he could add that little bit of accuracy to his game, he genuinely could be like a really fearful striker. Last season he was quite good, but I mean, like, if he adds that little bit, this season's not been his year, in my opinion. I think he's been quite poor actually this season.
Well, look at the other guys sort of contesting against Relay in terms of they're both our strikers. It's up against Timo Werner, and when a striker is performing that well, it's hard to sort of outdo him.
But when I've watched Leipzig, I think it might have been against Bayern when we watched it, Josh. They chose to play Nkunku up front rather than Yusuf Poulsen. Maybe that was just tactically for that game. But with the way Poulsen's been playing this year, if I'm not wrong, I think he's got 5 goals. I'm going to double check.
Yeah, you check. But I think the thing with Leipzig, though, is they changed their formation up so much. So as we talked about in the game, they made a substitution where Sabitzer came on, and he was actually genuinely playing right back for the last 10 minutes because, of course, it was. I think at that point they were 1-0 down. I think it was a minute or two after Sabitzer had come on, Poulsen had scored, and they're so weird in the way that they changed their players, because originally they started with a back 3. There was Tyler Adams playing as the right wing back. Then he changed to a centre back, and then of course Sabitzer came on. He then came on as a right back. They're a weird team in the way that they play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he scored 4, by the way. That was his 4th goal of the year.
4 goals this season, and I think, as we said before, his build and the mould of the player that he is, you would think that he would score goals, and we saw last season he does have it in him to score goals. He was fantastic last season, but I do actually have to say, in my genuine opinion, I think Timo Werner had a horrendously bad game. I think he was awful. I think the first 20 minutes, for a player of his stature, you would expect him to get off the front foot. I think he was a little bit slow to start off. I mean, he was trying his hardest to get a couple of chances here and there. I think in this game specifically, it wasn't about him going through on goal. A lot of his work was him just trying to feed it into Poulsen, which unfortunately, as I said, it took them towards the 80th minute for Poulsen to get the equaliser. But I think it was a slow start for Werner. And I think maybe over the next couple of weeks, we'll start seeing get back to his pace and get a bit more of a couple of decent chances on goal. But I think if I had to pick out a standout player in this game, it would be Kevin Campbell. He's been out for a long, long time now with an injury. This was his first game back, of course. And I think he completely stole the show in this game. Quality performance from him. A fantastic game for Freiburg. Of course, they picked up a point, but the important thing we haven't talked about is that very, very, very late 92nd minute winner that they thought they had, that was ruled incredibly marginally offside. I don't know whether you guys have seen the video of the goal and the offside that was given by VAR. It was awful. It was painstaking. I think, did you say you'd seen it, Kieran D?
I have not seen it, no.
Have you not seen it?
Did you say VAR being awful? I would never have heard it in a month or so. Well,
it wouldn't be a football game, would it? First game back to have VAR causing controversy. It was awful. And I think Freiburg will feel robbed. They will feel absolutely robbed. 92nd minute. They were going ballistic, and they had every right to. And then, of course, the referee, I think, I went when the goal went in. I was absolutely delighted for them, because that was the game where Leipzig were going to, of course, I think we could have said that they were out the title race. Freiburg, massive win for them, but no. Of course, VAR has to pop up at some point this season, and he decided to do it on week 1. So, of course, a massive point for Freiburg. It keeps them in the Europa League race. As for Leipzig, it drops them down to 4th because of Gladbach's win on Saturday. In terms of our scores predictions that we did last week, Kieran D, you put down 3-0 Leipzig. It's a little bit far off on that one. Kieran L, you put 2-0 Leipzig. So still a little bit far off on that one.
To be honest,
I put 2-1 Leipzig, which was a shame. It could have happened, of course, 20 shots. But the one I think was fairly closer was Rowan 2-2. I think that was more close than mine, to be honest, because, as I said, Leipzig had chances and Freiburg had the ruled out goals. So unfortunately, even in that context, still no points on the board in terms of that game, unfortunately. We now move on to the final Saturday game that was played. We all watched this one on the watch-along on Saturday night. Frankfurt 1, Gladbach 3. Very, very unexpected start to this game. 2 goals within 10 minutes from Alisson play and Thuram. It died off a little bit as the game went on, but it wasn't a bad game overall goals-wise. 4 goals.
I suppose it's the start you want in the first game back. Getting them 2 goals so quick probably will boost their confidence, knowing that they know that they can score that quick. Against not a bad side, Frankfurt aren't a terrible side in the league, so it's a confidence booster more than anything.
I think go on.
I'll let you go.
You talked about Werner looking slow. I think Frankfurt looks slow. And to be fair, I'm guessing it's hard to be fast when you concede after 40 seconds. But I just think they were very laboured, barely really created anything. They did not play to DOS strengths, which I think is what we mentioned. It was similar to, actually, I know I'm talking about the Mainz game again. They started the game with Ji-Dong 1, yet they played the ball into his feet. He's a tall guy. If you get balls into the box, he'll get it on his head eventually, or he'll bring the ball down. So I think they just didn't play to the strength. The game was over after 10 minutes. They never looked like getting back into it.
They were poor. They were very poor.
Josh were absolutely abusing Kamada, weren't we, Josh? We were absolutely going in on him for what his decision making was awful.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to say. Next is the fact that I think Kamada had a terrible game. I talked about him before and said, of course, we've seen him in the Europa League a couple of times, scoring goals here and there and having a fantastic performances in the Europa League. But his decision making was awful, and it's a point I'm going to come back to what we said on Saturday that. There are teams in this league where you can very distinctly see how they're going to play. So, for example, this weekend, Leipzig with the 2 forwards up top, you've got Poulsen and Werner. It's a very Jermaine Defoe, Peter Crouch front 2. You've got the tall guy and you've got the small guy that's going to finish. You look at other sides like Bayern Munich, for example. Lewandowski is the type of guy that will hold up the ball, let the players run around him, and he's a potent finisher. Dortmund, for example, same with Haaland. He's a tall player. He'll hold up the ball. You see the pattern. Frankfurt, when I look at Frankfurt, I don't know what Kamada is as a player because he's not tall, he's not quick, he's got no skills. He's one of those players where because he's young. I'm not trying to slag him off. I'm not saying he's a rubbish player, but I don't know what play style he has and how he fits the system.
No, I agree.
It's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one. I mean, with Bastos, do you know what Bastos is like? We saw him back in the days when he was at Wolfsburg. He was banging in goals. Simple, tactic is to just launch the ball at his head. He's going to smash it in. He's got the height. Yeah, exactly. It is basic football. And I think Frankfurt seem to overemphasize the fact of we'll have 2 strikers. We have this distinct 6'6" guy that we can lob the ball into, but we'll opt to give it to Kamada where he'll do nothing.
Yeah,
I think he's still growing as a player because he's still young and obviously I don't want to hate on him too much. Unlike Josh, who's just tore the kid down.
I'm sorry if you're watching this, Kamada.
He's going to retire.
I've heard he's a big fan of Rogue football podcasts.
Thank you. But in general, I see what you mean. But it's so difficult from Frankfurt to go from what they had last year. They didn't. For me, I know they bought. Have they bought Andre Silva or is he loaned in?
Well, they've been talking over the weekend. They are they're wanting to bring him in. Of course, he's on loan from AC Milan, but they're looking to try and sign him permanently.
He might be that good Jovic-esque player.
They're missing someone like that. And I think you could tell the impact of Andre Silva when he came on.
Oh, yeah, he took his goal well. His goal
very, very good finish.
But in one summer, when you lose your main 3 strikers, you're always going to struggle the following season if you haven't replaced them with enough quality. Like, you could see the quality of Rebic, Jovic and Haller in that Frankfurt side. And now they look lackluster without it.
Never sell your best players, lads. I'd never do it, especially.
We've seen it at other teams, haven't we? God. But no, I think To be fair, the overall perspective of the game is Frankfurt had a couple of decent chances. I think Gladbach were very happy to sit back and let them just hold the ball because they weren't doing much with it. But I think one of the chances that could have been worked a little bit better was the Kostic free kick, which he went for power rather than trying to get the ball to swerve a bit more, which was a very good chance. But it was one of the very rare few chances that we had in this game for Frankfurt to make any sort of comeback, unfortunately. But in terms of the score predictions that we made last week, Kieran D, you hit the nail on the head once again. 3-1 Gladbach, spot on. There's another 3 points on the board in this one. Kieran L, you went 2-0 Gladbach. It was 2-0 after 10 minutes, but unfortunately it wasn't 2-0 at the end of the game.
And 11 have had a point today.
If only the games were 10 minutes long, not 90. I went 4-2-1 Frankfurt. Way far off that. And Rowan, you went 5-3. So you actually got you got the 3 goals for Gladbach correct, but unfortunately not the 5 for Frankfurt in this match, unfortunately. So that's all the Saturday games we're going to talk about. We've now got the Sunday games, and I think this was a fantastic match. And I think this was the game, in my opinion, where we saw that there are teams in this league where they've hit straight back into the pace of the Bundesliga, and it was Cologne 2, Mainz 2. Thrilling match.
Before we talk about it, I didn't see this game because I was asleep. So what I'll do is I'll finish my pizza and go wash my hands while you all talk about it. Also, breaking news: Aubameyang is driving in the F1 race this weekend.
There we go. Boom.
You did watch it because I know I did, and I tell you what, I had a bloody whale of a time in this game.
I didn't watch it because I was asleep.
Oh, look at me, Josh. Did you watch it?
I can't say I watched it myself, but I did know Aguero was in it.
Are we on about the game or are we on about the bloody F1?
I'm confused because I feel like Rome was going about the F1, which I didn't watch, but the game I watched, it was incredible.
I had a whale of a time watching this, Josh. I don't know about you.
All I'm going to say is it's 2 words here, and Kieran L will definitely agree with me that there is one certain player that stood out in this game. I'm going to say 1 word, and you're going to go absolutely yes. Malong.
Yes, that's the player. When I said earlier, in the midfield, from minute one, he reminded me of a mini Kante, but when he took that driving run to get them back into the game, no one wanted to go near him because no one expected him to drive through the middle like he did. And
the Josh standout goal of the weekend.
And best player on the pitch from minute 1. I don't even care if Cologne went 2-0 up. He was best player on pitch.
No, he was absolutely incredible. Of course, Cologne, they went 2-0 up in this game. Mark Hoof, who's on loan from Schalke. Do you want to quickly add your point in?
I've seen the penalty that Cologne got given. Such a silly mistake from the defender. He doesn't need to turn into him like that. There, it's a stupid penalty to give away that early on in the game.
No, I think it was 4 minutes in. It was Niakate that went to go in for the tackle. Mark Hoof, who's been on absolute fire since he's come back from Schalke on loan. It is his boyhood club, FC Cologne. He's played in 9 games this season. 5 goals, 4 assists. He's contributed in every match he's played so far since coming back. And they went 2-0 up, of course. Florian Kainz getting that second goal. It was a near post header in that game. Fantastic cross from Drexler. The poor man's Drexler. I was
about to say, that cross from Drexler to the back post, I tell you what, he'd come on as a sub as well. But I tell you what, if you're a kid and you want to see the art of crossing a ball across the front post, my lord, the whip on
just standing that goal now.
It was beautiful crossing from the much better Julian Draxler at PSG. You might have got the Tech Drexler at your club in France. But the comeback from Mainz was inspirational. I'm not going to lie, I do personally think for the majority of the game, I think you might agree with me as well, Kieran, now, we didn't see much of Robin Quaison in the second half. He was very, very shy in this game,
to be fair,
I think.
Didn't see much of him in general. I think for me, Uth was the star man in terms of a goal scorer on the pitch. He seemed to be really the guy that Cologne had looked to when they wanted to build an attack and they wanted to be fearful going forward. But in terms of Mainz, that substitute to bring on Awoniyi, accurately how they say his name.
Awoniyi.
As we speak, I'm just watching the highlights of the game just so I can join the conversation. The first goal for Mainz, I feel the keeper could. I'm just watching the Malong run now. Jesus Christ! For the first goal for Mainz, the keeper should come out and collect that. It's too close to him. He kind of it dawdles a little bit at the feet of that player, a Womma Bob.
But I will give credit to Kaison because you can tell he's got that quality because of the pass he made in behind the centre back.
Fantastic. And I think the quality of the assists in these games was superb.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, obviously, the second goal we're going to talk about now, the goal from Pierre Koundé-Malong, in my opinion, is the goal of the weekend. The way he runs, I'm pretty sure he takes his shot outside of the foot as well, which just completely
shoots as well. It makes it better. As he still got the finish for it.
It's 50th appearance for Mainz, and I think what a way to mark your 50th appearance in the Bundesliga with a outstanding goal to give Mainz what is such a vital point in the relegation race.
Yeah, couldn't argue with that. Malong was absolutely brilliant. From even defensively, he's got that pace about him that, as I said before, arguably like a Kante does. The way he can make up for mistakes and track back. And I tell you what, by the end of the game, he looked knackered after that goal because he ran off celebrating and suddenly stopped because he looked absolutely knackered.
Yeah, he was tired.
That's what you want with your. So that's what you want with your attacking threat. To be absolutely gassed out because it shows they've actually put effort in. There were a couple of games where the strikers just didn't look tired at all. And considering you've just come back from the break, they should be like panting like a dog on heat. But instead, no, some of them just didn't look in it.
And I've got to say as well, Taiwan Iyi, who is actually a Liverpool loanee, was reported to be being sent back to Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. Mainz weren't really going to have him because of how potent their front line's been this season. He wasn't getting much game time. What an inspired substitution that was. He'd only been on for a few moments. And, of course, the Nigerian Liverpool loanee was... As I do agree with you, Kieran, I do think the goalkeeper should have got there to save it. But even though in that situation, it is a massive goal for him because, of course, not having much time playing with Mainz because of such a potent front line. This could be the goal that gets him going.
Any goal for someone that is that age is just brilliant. Like if you're young and you're scoring goals, it's nice to see, especially
in a top European league as well.
Yeah, especially if it's someone from England that plays for an English club. It's nice to see him doing that abroad.
That's his first goal, and he'll remember it as well. Because I don't know about you, Josh. I felt that really inspired Mainz. They were looking really lax up until that point, and the moment that goal went in and the changes were made, they started to really put on the pressure.
I mean, it's something that we talked about last week. My opinion, and I think it was you that said it, Kieran, now, they are a side where you wouldn't have expected them to be down there. You know, we talked last week about how they were in the Europa League a couple of years ago. I do feel like they've got a very good team chemistry, but at times they're very, very unlucky. I think the defence is where the problem is, and you look at the penalty that was given away from Niakate, the French centre-back. It was reckless, it was stupid, and it really could have messed things up big time. It could have gone a very similar way to the Gladbach match, but they were a great team on paper. They were a very good team on paper.
If your team's in that relegation area, the fight I saw from Mainz is what I'd want to see. Actually, do you know what? Come on. Speaking of a team that's in a relegation battle if the league comes back, that's what I want to see week in, week out. I want to see people that genuinely, and I'd tell you what, Malong was probably, again, the standing out man for this, didn't give up once. He seemed to fight for the team, and that's why they got the result in the end. They could have easily, at 2-0 down, a little bit like Eintracht Frankfurt, just gone, well, we're not going to win today, are we? We'll come on next week. But
absolutely.
And with no crowd, they just had to kind of spur themselves on. And it was really
the thing is as well for Cologne is they had already previously played a match behind closed doors. This was their first. This is their second game actually, in which they played behind closed doors at home. The last fixture of the Bundesliga, which was played, was Cologne versus Gladbach, which Cologne played at home. So they had already got the experience of playing a home match, the experience of playing behind closed doors, and for this to be Mainz's first game behind closed doors ever. An inspired comeback, and that really should send a massive warning out to Dusseldorf and Werder Bremen and Paderborn that if they are going to want to try and stay up, they have got a very, very tough battle on their hands. And you can even say the same for Augsburg. I think Augsburg are only 1 point above them. They're going to have a very, very tricky challenge trying to keep up with Mainz because they have got, I think, a couple of games against the bottom sides to come up. So we could see Mainz start moving up the table and see teams like Augsburg start dropping.
Go on.
I was just going to go through the score predictions. I'll let you go.
No, because I could have easily made this point in a point's time, but there's a team I worry for in that area, and they're the team that's coming up next. That's all. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. In terms of the score predictions, Kira D, you went 3-2 mines.
Oh,
Unlucky on that one. That was a close one. Kieran
Yeah.
L, you got 2-2 spot on.
Oh, you little baldy.
Absolutely spot on.
yes.
You did indeed 2-2. So that's 3 points for you.
Come on.
I predicted 2-1 Cologne.
Oh,
As I say, I'm
Tight
pretty
one.
confident I'm going to be on 0 points by the end of the week. As always. I didn't go 2-all because we never repeated predictions. So there's no need for suspense.
I love
You went 1-0 mines, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely wrong.
Unlucky. But the next game, which you talked about, the team that I've got to worry about surviving, our Sunday night kickoff game, which I didn't watch. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of glad I didn't. Union Berlin 0, Bayern Munich 2. Now, this game only had 8 shots on target throughout the entire thing, the lowest of any Bundesliga game this weekend.
Yeah, I did watch this game, and honestly, both teams look off the pace. Bayern Munich did not look like themselves at all.
me and Kieran watched this, and we were messaging each other at the time, and there may have been a passing message saying this is boring, but we will move on from that passing message. For me, it was, do you know when you watch an FA Cup tie between a lower league team and a big team, and you just see the lower league team have 10 men behind the ball for literally 80 minutes, but without a crowd, you're not willing them on the same because there's no one cheering them on to keep I feel like if the Union Berlin fans were there, they'd be rioting after every clearance. That is just the type of fans they are. And without them, and when you've got an experienced defender like Neven Subotic, and he is experienced, but he looks slow. And when he's giving away penalties, they were doomed.
It was a very soft penalty, in my opinion.
I agree.
Former Dortmund man gifting Bayern points here. He will not go down well with the Dortmund fans.
Agent Subotic. Absolutely.
Agent Subotic.
Oh, God. But no, 2-0. Of course, Lewandowski, who originally wouldn't have played this game if it had have been played before, of course, because of coronavirus. He's back from injury, scored another goal, which means he's now up to 26. And the most surprising thing, Benjamin Pavard did not score a volley. He scored an actual normal goal. So, did he? Oh, God.
He almost, very similar to the one on the World Cup, it bounced to him towards the back post. I'm going, do it again. Do it again.
He loves the volley, doesn't he?
A half volley as well. Do you know, like a Nacho Fernandez one, where he gets that right?
It was just such a boring game of football. And I don't want to take it for granted because I'm happy it was football. But what I expect from Bayern Munich was not to win 2-0 and then pass it around the midfield and the defenders for a while.
The question I just want to very quickly ask, I heard, did Sebastian Anderson not play this game?
No,
he was on bench.
He was on the bench. Minute, didn't he?
He was on the bench.
Anthony Uja
started. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say to Kieran Dillon, I don't know about you, Gnabry was bloody wasteful. Every time he got the ball, he could have shot about 15 times during that game, and he'd wait until there were 3 players in front.
I thought Coleman looked sharp when he came on. He looked sharp. Yeah. Alphonso Davies played all right as well.
It's that clip of I can't remember who got past him, but Davies just switching it and just sprinting past to block him.
The thing is, in this game, I can't remember any standout performers. That's the thing. They either played well or they were just on the pitch.
I'd say again, Alphonso Davies, it was very much like that one against Chelsea. You just can't play against him because he may not be the best technically defensively, but his pace is so crucial. It's like why Aubameyang was such a threat forward for so many years. It's because just put a through ball and he'll catch it. Whereas it's literally on the other end of the pitch. Anyone that goes past him, I'd say Davis if I was clutching at straws, Kieran. That's the only one.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I'd like to see Alphonso Davies play a bit more attacking. Obviously, when he does get the chance to, because I'd like to see his finishing abilities. Because of course, I think he hasn't really played much of a winger for Bayern. Of course, he'd previously come from the MLS where he was playing as a winger. He came to Bayern, had 1 or 2 games as a winger. It'd be interesting because the thing is, imagine a Alphonso Davies where his finishing is not top quality. I'm not expecting out of this world finishes or anything, but just he's comfortable. When he's got a chance, he'll take it and take the shot. But can you imagine a left back Davies where he's fantastic at defending and he's quality going forward? He would be the Canadian Dani Alves.
I would like to see him employed in a similar role to what Dortmund do with Rafael Guerreiro, where he doesn't exactly play as a left back. He plays more as a wing back, and he goes forward a lot more. Like, you've seen how many goals Guerreiro scored this season. I'd like to see that from Davies, but Guerreiro's got that natural finishing about him because he used to be a winger, whereas Davies has not played probably enough as a left winger to have that sense of natural finishing. Like, you've seen the finishes that Guerreiro has. You saw it one on the weekend. It was magnificent. I'm thinking of Fabian Hazard.
I know it's not.
You can't tell. When they've got a camera on the back of the head, they look exactly the same.
But Guerreiro took his goal well, and he's took a lot of goals well this season. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, even Hakimi as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you're stealing me points, Josh.
I've nicked it. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I know it's not the same side, but I think there's one player that's the best in the world at that position at the moment in terms of up and down as a wing back, but also midfielder, is, I'd say, Achraf Hakimi. I think he's the best at it in the world.
Yeah. Ooh.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a quality player on his day.
I'd like to just go for some quotes from when the game was happening. Game's been shite. Been watching Bruno Haslewan. Then you went to a bit about Pjanic. Kieran made a good point about trying to see Union Berlin just bullying Munich whenever they touch the ball.
Yeah.
Playing some nice Berlin were playing some nice stuff, and then Kieran got annoyed at the pitch.
Oh yeah, the pitch was doing my head in. It was honestly.
Give you an update, by the way.
Shows how interesting.
EA Sports have just tweeted out they're releasing brand new Man of the Match cards for the Bundesliga games each week.
Can I just say, I was literally going to suggest in the group chat that, do you know what I'd like them to do? Bring out a Man of the Week day. Like, do you know, like, obviously they've not got Team of the Week anymore, but like a guy who performed the best throughout the week as a thing every week. But, well, they broke my idea, so screw them.
Yeah, they've just put with Bundesliga's match day 26 in the books and other global leagues having resumed domestic play. We're honouring select standouts from the week with special Man of the Match.
I'm looking
at the cards now. It's very random, but
Nico Muller, the goalkeeper from Mainz, Guerreiro left wing back, Pavard right back, Demabe 84, Pli 87, Ibisevic 81, and then Junior Negau and Nielsen.
Did everyone here watch Leverkusen? Because I'm not going to lie, I think Diaby was man of the match, not Demerbe.
Diaby?
Say it.
No,
but it was Demerbe.
I thought Havertz, for sure. The way he took his 2 goals pass.
He's got a team at season, though.
Yeah, no, I think Havertz was good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, I mean, for a man he's 20 years old, he's unbelievable.
He is.
I mean, in terms of the games, have I accidentally missed off Werder Bremen Leverkusen here? Have I made another mistake as usual? It's never a normal podcast without me not making a mistake.
It's fine. Werder Bremen were crap, and they looked absolutely horrific.
They were awful.
Yep.
Yeah, very off the pace.
If I was a Werder Bremen fan, I'd be scared. Genuinely, yeah. I'd be frightened. Because if they play like that against even Paderborn or Dusseldorf, they might not concede as many, but they will still lose the game.
Yeah, they were really bad. We can leave it there if you want. They're just crap.
The finish from Jebri Selassie was fantastic, though. The back heel was very good, but apart from that,
when a centre back is pushing better than your strikers, I think you need to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah,
we're in. I mean, even Milo Shika, the Kosovan winger, which I put as the one to watch in terms of Werder Bremen, was very, very lackluster, was very quiet. Bittencourt had a terrible game. I think his crosses on his free kicks were horrendously bad and proves that why he's at a club like Werder Bremen, not Hoffenheim, because his quality of balls is pretty shocking for a player of that standard.
That miss was bad. That miss was bad. And I'll tell you what, actually, sorry, I do want to make a point. I think it is about Demurbe. I think it's the third goal. It was Bellarabi, I think, maybe. That no-look pass.
Oh, it was beautiful. Oh, it was lovely. It's what I mean. There's been some great assists this week, haven't there, in the Bundesliga?
I can't remember who it was, whether it was Demurbe or if it was Bellarabi, but that no-look pass between the lines. Chef kiss.
We have football, haven't we?
It was...
We've missed football, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've never celebrated an assist ever. I'm like, oh, come on, what's that?
What an assist, fella.
It's just nice to have it back. Do you know what I mean? I mean, as we said before, these games, they're not going to be for the next week or two. They're not going to be at the standard of the Bundesliga is what it usually is. But all you've got to think is if you look back at the football that was on the week before, it is 100 times of a higher standard of the K-League. No offense to the K-League, but it's good football. I mean, the K-League, they're putting sex dolls in their stadium. Bundesliga's not doing that.
To boost morale. Come on.
Whoever gets a hat-trick gets to go.
Score a goal, get to use them. Simple.
Yeah, gets to take one of them up.
Lee Dong-gook is celebrated.
The accidental thing, it's literally the most bullcrap thing I've ever seen in my life. We accidentally ordered... Oh, we've ordered 300 of these accidental dolls. Did you not think
we might
as well put them in stadium.
The beautiful world of football, isn't it? All the random stuff that comes up. In 1 week, we've had sex dolls in the K-League and Gareth Barry apparently owning Swindon. It's the crazy world of football that it is. It's mad. It really is mad. But in terms of the score table, it turns out, actually, I didn't make a mistake, so I could give myself a pat on the back there. Kieran D, you are leading the league. Of course, we made 9 predictions overall this week and 6 points on the board. Kieran D continues the score predictions, as they always do.
Can we remove the losses? Because we look like the shittest league in the world.
Rowan has lost 9. Oh, dear. No, Rowan, you were unfortunately correct. No predictions.
Right,
no, the worst thing was, Ladbrokes do that 1-2-3 where you can guess the scores. Guess 2 of them right. I got a £2 free bet, so I put a £2 thing on. I got 2 of them right on there, but I didn't get them right here. I got them right on the wrong on the thing. Most matters. Fuck betting. This is where the real.
What you need to do is you need to take your 1-2-3 bet and apply it to this as well.
No, trust me, I'm currently loading up my Ladbrokes bet of the games I've gone for this weekend, and I'm going for them.
Well, talking about the games, I said I picked up 4 games this week because there are 18 games overall being played this week. And quite frankly, we don't want to be here till the Bundesliga 21-22 season covering all those games. So I think it's better if we pick out 4. I picked out this week 2 particular clubs that are the standouts of the top of the table that we're going to be talking about.
I thought you were going to go. We've picked 4. We're going to do 4 games. So we picked 2 games today to go through. You've just completely gone against.
No. Don't worry, I've got it all sorted. But before we go into those 4 games, we're going to have a quick sponsor. Fucking remembered it this week. Let's go, boys. The Athletic. 50% off you can get from your annual subscription. The Bundesliga is back. We know that the Premier League and the Serie A, they're in talks of coming back in the next couple of weeks. But you can get all of the latest and breaking news on The Athletic. You can get yourself 50% off your annual subscription, a 7-day free trial, content from some of the standout journalists, including Oliver Kay and the Bundesliga starman Raphael Honigstein, which has been writing a load of different reports on the Bundesliga from the games of last week, as well as some upcoming reviews of some of the standout players in the next match day. But there's not just that. If you're a WWE fan, if you like NFL, if you like combat sports, they have all the different sports on there as well. They cover every single day. It's not just football, whole host of sports on there. If you want to join us, it's theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. Of course, as I said before, 50% off your annual subscription. Why would you not sign up, of course, to keep up to date with all the latest news? The link is in the description, as always. I really do recommend checking it out. Of course, as I said, if you are watching the Bundesliga right now, Raphael Honigstein, loads of fantastic news on there. So theathletic.co.uk/thesports corner. The link is in the description below. So we're now going to move on to our games of the week. There are 2 teams I've picked out this week as the standouts because their matches are just massive. And I looked at them and I thought, wow, some tricky games here that could really change the reflection of the top half of the table. The two teams we're looking at this week are Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen. Now, Wolfsburg come up for both of these sides this week. So even for Wolfsburg, these are humongous games. Now, on Saturday, 2:30, there are some fantastic games this weekend compared to last week. Some really, really big ties. And the first one I picked out, of course, we're going to cover two of Dortmund's games. The first game we're going to cover is Wolfsburg versus Dortmund, which is at 2:30. And the second game we'll be covering is, of course, the Klassiker, which is at 5:30 on Tuesday. The biggest game, I think, of the Bundesliga season so far. And we say that every week, but we absolutely mean it this time. It really is the biggest game of the week so far, and of the season, of course. Now, this is a double header. European chasing Wolfsburg and title hunting Bayern Munich are the two sides Dortmund will face next. Even before the break, Dortmund have hit 5 wins in a row. They will desperately need to get wins in both games to keep up the pace with Bayern and the clubs below them as well. But Bayern, they've got Frankfurt this weekend. Of course, they will desperately hunting for a win in that the Klassiker as well. There's 8 games left to go this season. Both sides that Dortmund face are on form. Bayern have been unbeaten for quite some time. Wolfsburg haven't lost in their last 7. Do we think Dortmund can claim 6 points out of 6? Because they're away at home against Wolfsburg and they're at home against Bayern, but it's very different position. Optimism, I like it, Kieran. Why do you think yes?
Because I want it to happen and I'm willing it into existence. I don't want this to be a title that goes to Bayern Munich. So instead of using my head and being realistic, I'm going to be Mr. Rowan. I'm going to be optimistic. And I'm going to put Dortmund to win both games because up the bloody Dortmund. Viva la Bundesliga. There you go. That's it.
I like the optimism. Kieran, are you going for the same optimism?
No.
No, quite the opposite.
I hope it's a good game. I'd love to watch this game. Are we making predictions, by the way? I kind of zoned out for a little bit then.
Yes, we're going to make predictions for both games.
He packed Marco Reus. That's why he won't listen.
Played a bit of FIFA on the side.
I hope Wolfsburg can take the momentum of that massive win they got against Augsburg into this match. They're at home. I was about to say they'd have the fans behind them, but no, they won't. Dortmund is as free scoring as ever. They've literally just picked up where they left off. I can see Dortmund winning it, though. I think the quality outweighs Wolfsburg by quite a large margin. It should be a good game, though.
Go on, then. What's your prediction?
Very enticing. We'll go for predictions for Wolfsburg v Dortmund.
You know what? I predicted it quite a bit last week. 3-1 to Dortmund.
3-1 to Dortmund. I like it. Kieran L, what are we going for this one?
If only it was the K-League, they could have the dolls behind them. I'm going to go with 3-0 Dortmund.
3-0 Dortmund. We've got some high scores here for Dortmund. I'm going to predict... It's such a tricky one. It's such a tricky one. Now, the important thing is Weghorst is back for Wolfsburg. Which I feel like it's going to affect this one. So I'm going to go 3-2 Dortmund. It's going to be a tight one, I think. Rowan, we've all pretty much gone for 3 goals for either side here. Are you going to stick with the theme or are you going differently?
2-1 Dortmund.
2-1 Dortmund. I like it. So we're all going for a Dortmund victory, of course. In the comments below, as always, put in your predictions on who you think are going to win these games in terms of scores. But the other game that Dortmund are playing, of course, as we spoke about, very strong Yorkshire. We spoke about that game. Spoke about this game. We spoke about it. Dortmund versus Bayern Munich, the Klassiker, of course, the biggest game of the season.
Said Bayern Munich in a York. Bayern Munich.
Hey, the Klassiker, Bayern Munich. It's a great game, this one. We've got Robert Lewandowski. He's an all right striker in this game. And we've got Marco Reus. In fact, actually, there isn't Marco Reus. Apparently, he's out for the rest of the season now.
Apparently.
That's tragic, that is.
From what I've heard, he's out for the rest of the season. This is the biggest game, and we don't mean this. We always say it every week, I said before. We mean this time. This could be the game that decides where the title is going or whether this race continues. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I always thought you were going to carry on. Yeah, obviously, if Dortmund win this, if both teams win at the weekend and Dortmund win this game, it turns to a 1-point game, and all it takes is for Bayern to draw a game or to lose one, Dortmund to pick up a win or a draw, and either they're even going into the final 6 games, 8 games of the season. Or Dortmund have to keep on winning. It's basically the thing of Dortmund can't lose and Bayern have got to be careful.
I mean, you've got to think as well, if Dortmund bottle the points and lose both games here, Gladbach, Leverkusen and Leipzig will be licking their lips at the fact that they'll be straight back in, of not the title race, because the race will probably be over, but the Champions League and Europa League positions are well and truly open again.
No, but
the biggest,
go on.
I'll say the biggest thing is that if let's say Dortmund beat Wolfsburg at the weekend, Bayern win, Bayern beat Dortmund, it can still, the other teams I think can technically still win the league. If Leipzig win and then Dortmund lose to Wolfsburg, but they beat Bayern, Bayern lose, there's a way that I think Mönchengladbach can still win the league.
Yeah, they can, but again, I've gone from Mr. Optimist, so I'm back to Mr. Pessimist. If Bayern win, I'm conceding they've won the league. If Bayern beat Dortmund, I'm conceding that's it, that's happened. However, if Dortmund win, I am giving it massive limbs because that brings everything. As I said to you on the weekend, Josh, if Dortmund beat Bayern, inadvertently, they wrap 3 other teams straight back in without... Yeah, that's all. Can't wait.
The thing is Bayern are holding on to a very thin piece of rope right now in terms of they have got a very slender lead. And if they can, beat Frankfurt, which, of course, you've got to remember, they did lose to Frankfurt. I know they were down to 10 men, of course, but they still lost to them. Of course, Leipzig last week, Freiburg beat them, drop points again. It could happen. But in terms of if Dortmund win this game, we're back to where we were a couple of months ago, where we were sat there excited thinking this is the first big title race that we've probably had since Klopp was back at Dortmund, where Dortmund won the league. I think it was on the last day, courtesy of Kagawa being an absolute legend at the time. Now he's bold.
At the time, still a legend.
Now he's bold. Now he's bold. But in this game, he just reminded me of Kevin Trapp's skinhead. If you haven't seen it, well worth looking. It doesn't look right.
Well worth looking at his head.
But for Bayern, if they win this game, and of course they beat Frankfurt, the league is over. We would need an absolute miracle to happen in terms of Bayern dropping points. I mean, of course, the last game that they played against Union Berlin, from what you guys have said, I haven't watched the game, so I can't really say much myself, but they didn't look at the races. When I looked at the stats, I thought, this isn't the Bayern we know. Union Berlin had pretty much the same amount of chances of Bayern in terms of shots on target. If these sides stay the way that they are, you could very clearly say that Dortmund could batter them. Because of home advantage, Dortmund have continued on with their form. Bayern looks shaky in terms of the way that they've played now. But because they have another game to play beforehand, of course, it gives them more of an opportunity to get back into the swing of things, play a game at home as well. So they played at home and away. It is the biggest game of the entire week because there's no other football on.
The season. It's the biggest game of the season. Genuine, and I'm not even this. As much as we don't say it, if one result, this decides the league, and that's pretty much. I know obviously other things can still happen. You were saying Marseille could still bloody win the title. They were 50 points behind, but it was mathematically possible.
It was mathematically possible, and everything's all fair in maths somewhere.
The only other big league in European football that is as tight as this, in terms of the title, is, of course, in Spain with La Liga, which we still don't know if that's going on.
Oh, also, this weekend would have had some class games in Serie A. We would have had Atalanta, Inter, and also Juventus, Roma, and Napoli, Lazio.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Can't wait for that to come back eventually.
Instead, on Sunday, we've got Cologne, Dusseldorf, Mainz, Leipzig, and Schalke, Augsburg.
Hey, a couple of weeks ago, we were craving football to be back, so I'll take those games. But I think this is a very, very hard one to predict. Very hard. KG, I'm putting you under the pressure first to give a prediction here. What do you think?
I don't want to be the sourpuss, but I think Bayern Munich will win this game.
But what score are you thinking?
Could have got 3-1.
3-1.
We love a 3-1.
That is 2 3-1s. You like your 3 goals. I'm pretty sure you went for 3 goals last week as well.
I went for it a lot, so we're gonna keep with it. We're gonna keep.
It's worked out for him as well.
Kieran out. You've heard Kieran D go for a 3-1 Bayern Munich win. Are you going down a similar route, or are you thinking this is going to be tight?
No. 2 sour pusses is too many sour pusses for me. I'm going to go with... Do you know what, right? I watched Bayern on the weekend. I don't know about you, Kieran. Boateng looked crap.
They all looked a little bit lackluster.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with 2-1 Borussia Dortmund, because Lewandowski is inevitably going to score. But Dortmund are going to outscore them and they're going to win. Do you know what? No, 3-1. Reverse it. Flip reverse.
3-1.
3-1 Dortmund.
3-1 Dortmund.
Reverse it, be 2-1 Bayern.
Yeah, I thought that for a second. I thought I was going 3-1 Bayern then. I was like, that doesn't work.
Reverse Kieran Dillon's score.
Right.
Right.
It's so hard to predict this game, so I'm going 4-4.
What?
Why not? Bayern's defence is going to be leaky. I think Dortmund are hungry with goals. I think, of course, Lewandowski, even though he scored at the weekend, I think these players will have had a bit of time to get back into it. So I'm going to do a Rowan and go, fuck it, 4-4. Goals are coming. Let's have it. Rowan, are you going down the same route?
I was considering a 4-4, but I want Dortmund to win, so I'm going 4-3 Dortmund. 4-3
Dortmund. I like it. I like it a lot. So we're all going for the very least 4 goals in this game. Let's pray to the Lords that it doesn't end 0-0.
I know.
It'll be very, very depressing if it does end 0-0. But they are the games that Dortmund are going to play. I think it's safe to say that they've got 2 very, very tricky matches. But it's not just them who have very, very tricky matches this week. Bayer Leverkusen. They're also up there this season. They have 2 humongous matches to play. Wolfsburg as well have got tricky games because Leverkusen will be playing Gladbach Saturday 2:30. It's a shame they put on 2 fucking great matches at the same time because on Tuesday at 7:30, right after that game, Leverkusen versus Wolfsburg.
Massive game.
Humongous games at the top of the league.
There's a lot of games that are like last week we only had one main standout game, no offense to the rest of the teams, but we want to watch Gladbach, Leverkusen, Leipzig, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. We want to watch these games because we know where the goals are going to be.
It's honestly exciting.
As a guy in the UFC said, I don't know about the Bundesliga this weekend. It's like ordering, I'm going to go analogy, like ordering a 20 nugget share box and you get 21. This is just the gift that keeps on giving.
Rowan, have you got an analogy for this one? I'm sure they've got to have had one. You've had about an hour and a half to think of one.
I don't have one. I'll be honest with you.
I'm
not going to try. I think I've got one prepared for later on, but
that's all right. It's not a podcast without Rowan having an analogy. But stats-wise, I've picked out a couple of stats. Leverkusen are unbeaten in their last 6 games. They've scored 8 goals in their last 2 games, of course. They previously had won 4-0 in the game before the break. They've got 2 sides to face in high form as well. Gladbach, they've only lost 1 game in their last 9. Of course, I said before, Wolfsburg have not lost in their last 7. Dependent on results elsewhere, including their big fixture on Saturday against Gladbach, Leverkusen could move up into 3rd place. However, they could also, worst case scenario, if they lose their next 2 games and Wolfsburg win their next 2 fixtures, Wolfsburg could be 5 points behind 5th, and a Champions League spot for Leverkusen could slowly drift away. It's so exciting because we're talking about all these potential opportunities. It could see Wolfsburg get right back into it again in terms of a Europa League, a Champions League spot, of course. But we could also see, as we said in the previous game, the 4 or 5 teams be back in the title race. It's so exciting. And I think the first game to really pick on is the biggest game out of the 2, Gladbach versus Leverkusen. Gladbach, who absolutely stormed Frankfurt on the weekend, and Leverkusen, who absolutely stormed Werder Bremen at the weekend. These are the 2 high-flying teams in terms of goals, including Dortmund, of course, since the break has come back. Are we going to see goals in this one again?
Okay, Dave.
Yeah.
Go on, KD.
Yes. Optimism, I like it. What are you going for?
We're going to go for 3-1. I mean, no, we're not going for 3-1. 3-2 to Gladbach.
Oh.
That would be a massive result for Gladbach. Keep it out.
I'm going to, even if the game happens on the, if Dortmund win, these 2 aren't going to capitalise. It's going to finish 2-2.
2-2. I like it. Of course, we did say last week both of these sides have rued a lot of missed chances in previous games.
Yep.
I am going to go for a 1-0 win to Gladbach.
Oh.
I'm going to be boring. There's going
Boring.
to be a late winner in this one from Gladbach, and it's going to be boring for the whole 90 minutes. Rowan, what we going for?
2-1 Leverkusen.
2-1 Leverkusen. I like it. I tell you what, real mixture of results here.
On the one on Monday, a stat that Leverkusen have lost once in 2020. Quite impressive.
I mean, it's a tricky one, this one. Leverkusen versus Wolfsburg, of course. Both these sides, we already know Gladbach are playing Leverkusen at the weekend. Wolfsburg will have already played their game against Dortmund. We could see potentially Wolfsburg drop out of the European spots if they lose both these games. We could see if they win both of these games, them only be 5 points behind a Leverkusen side if Leverkusen lose their 2 games as well. There's so many possibilities. It's impossible to say what could happen here. It is like that film that Benedict Cumberbatch was in where he tried cracking the code. You just don't know what's going to happen. That's the one.
Doctor Strange, you didn't try to crack a code.
It was a joke.
No, the one I know what you're talking about. The one about the war. The way
yes, that's the one. And not Sherlock Holmes either.
Genuinely serious.
Right. Back to
in
football.
terms of seriousness, though.
Yeah.
Prediction for this one, KD.
He's gone mute.
4-2.
2-2 to Leverkusen. I like it. Of course, he does think there's going to be another 4 goals for Leverkusen. Kevin L.
I think the result on Saturday was flattering for Wolfsburg, so I'm going to go 2-0 to Leverkusen.
2-0 to Leverkusen. I like it. I'm going to gift Wolfsburg a goal just because Weghorst is back. And of course, we do like Weghorst. I'm going to go 3-1 to Leverkusen. I think this will be the game where we'll see Leverkusen really go at it. Especially, I think they will lose that game against Gladbach, so I think they'll try in this game to get a good result. Rowan?
6-4 Leverkusen.
Yes, I like it. Optimism. 10 goals in this game. It wouldn't be a score prediction without Rowan absolutely smashing at least 7.
It's going to be like when you get on a plane.
Oh, I'm out.
Now, you're with your family. You get on the plane and you don't think anything of the journey. You're going to sit in your seat, you're going to get on the thing. Then you get on the plane and you realise you've got a window seat here. And I think this is what the game's going to be. It's going to be a window seat. It's going to look like a boring game, but boom. When you get on the plane, when the whistle blows, it's a window seat. You're looking out the window, everything's going on. You see everyone moving. You see the luggage going into the plane. It's going to be that.
I tell you what, he's put an analogy in there. He's worked hard to think of one in the last 5 minutes.
Nothing but consistent, are you, Rowan?
Exactly.
Try my best.
He tries his best each week with a different one, but they're the games of the week that we picked out. Only 4 predictions this week, as I said, because fuck trying to do 18 games. We'll be here all week. So, of course, next week we will find out what's happening in those games. But before next week's podcast, we have some watch-alongs, of course. Thanks to everybody that did come for the watch-alongs last week. We've changed it up a little bit. Every Saturday, 2:30, over the next couple of weeks, of course, the Bundesliga is the league we're focusing on. We are very shortly going to have to look at the games we're watching on Saturday. You might have forgot last week we did spin the wheel, which we are going to spin very, very shortly before we finish the podcast. So Saturday, 2:30, we'll go live at about 2 o'clock. So we can have a build up to the matches. We'll look at the lineups. We'll look at, of course, the standout players of these games. We'll find out who we're going to be watching in a couple of moments' time. And we're going to pick out a standout game each week that we're going to watch. Of course, it couldn't be any other game apart from Der Klassiker. Tuesday, 5:30, we'll go live at 5 p.m. UK time for that one. Let's please play the goals in this one. Fingers crossed. So that will be 5 p.m. We'll start there. And of course, as I said before, Saturday, 2 p.m. we'll start for our Super Saturday kickoffs. But before we finish our podcast up, I'd like to very quickly spin that wheel. And of course, before I spin that wheel, I'd just like to quickly say about our other podcasts. Of course, we do like to advertise them. So I'll take the screen off for a second there. Of course, yesterday, Rowan, you did upload the new episode of the Wrestling Corner. What went on in that episode?
There was nothing really much. There were some good episodes, half decent episodes of TV, but nothing much. So we did our prediction for Double or Nothing happened this weekend for AEW. We talked about the ladder match. We talked about the mystery man who is going to be. We had a good waffle about the Iconics. It was great.
Not too bad at all. Not too bad. If you do want to watch that, there'll be a link in the description as always. And of course, Thursday. Is it the Thursday this week, or is it Friday again?
Come on, Friday. I even promoted this.
It's Friday. It's Friday.
While we're in uni, we're moving it to Friday because we want as much time to do our work as possible. That is the only reason we changed Friday. I will be honest. There's no technical difficulties. It's just we want more time to do work that matters.
Eventually, I'll learn that it's on a Friday now. But what's going to be going on Friday on your NFL Corner this week? On
Friday, we continue the division previews, and me being the typical presenter I am, I forgot what division we're on. Oh, come and join us. I don't know.
That'll be on Friday. Whatever it is, there's content anyway. That'll be the NFL Corner on a Thursday. And of course, as well, you can join me on Twitch pretty much nearly every day apart from a Wednesday or 7 p.m. UK time on Twitch for some FIFA content. But now is the moment you've all been waiting for. Hey. It's time to spin that wheel for the games that we'll be covering on Saturday. Now, there's only 4 2:30 kickoffs, which perfectly fits the fact that there's only 4 of us for these games. Now, I'm going to change it up this week. I'm going to spin the wheel for the game first, and then I'm going to spin the wheel for who's got that match, just to change it up, because why not? No, I think... I can't remember what I did last week.
No, we did it the other way.
There we go. So, the 4 games that we've got, we have Gladbach versus Leverkusen, we have Freiburg versus Werder Bremen, we have Wolfsburg versus Dortmund, and we have Paderborn versus Hoffenheim. So I'm pretty sure you're all going to say that the worst game of them all is probably Freiburg versus Werder Bremen.
I mean, there'll be goals because Werder Bremen are crap.
Very, very true.
Paderborn, Hoffenheim.
Well, of course,
I would be all right watching Paderborn and Hoffenheim. Honestly.
Both sides in bad form.
Right.
Could be some goals in it.
You take that.
No.
I think
you get that. You can be happy.
There's 2 games we're all desperately wanting. It's Gladbach Leverkusen versus Wolfsburg versus Dortmund, of course. So I'm going to spin the wheel. These are the games that we're going to be covering at 2:30 on Saturday. The first game is Gladbach versus Leverkusen. It's one of the biggest ones of the weekend. But who's going to be getting it? The person who is going to be covering this game is spin that wheel.
I pray it's me because I love both teams.
Rigged.
I can say there is no rigged things on this wheel. It is like a Monopoly draw. There is an official adjudicator in the background that is watching, seeing that this wheel is being spun. No hitches, no glitches, no bitches. The wheel's being spun as normal.
If there is an adjudicator.
Can we have a look?
It's
why are they still on the floor?
It's the Cookie Monster. They're sat down. It's a sweaty day today. It's warm. Right. So that is the first game. I will be covering Gladbach versus Leverkusen.
Is Kieran going to get the chili?
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to get the chili.
Next game. It's not going to take you off. I might have to spin it again. No, it's not. It's Paderborn versus Hoffenheim. Who's having this one?
Give it Kieran Dillon. He wants it.
The answer.
I don't want it.
He's going to get this one. The wheel's spun again in the background. My bad. It's going to be. Turns out it's me again. No, it's not. Kieran out.
Yes.
I knew it was. I get the crappiest games every.
Right. Fine. The next one. It's spun already. I don't know why. That's gone. The next game.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
Already gone.
It's already gone.
It's already gone. I'll go Freiburg Werder Bremen because it was the closest. And the person who's closest on this one will cover the game.
That's not going to work. There you go.
Yes.
Yes. It's Lando and Josh. It's respin. It's Lando and Josh.
No, because it said he was the closest.
No. And other Kieran gets what? What's the other game?
The other game.
Dortmund.
Wolfsburg versus Dortmund.
Yes.
I've just confirmed with my official adjudicator. He has said, I did say the closest on the wheel there, unfortunately. Someone had to have the shit game, didn't they? But they're the games that we'll be covering 2:30 on Saturday. We'll be live at 2 o'clock for that. Of course, covering all those games. I think me and Kieran D could be happy.
I'm the only one who's not had a good game yet. He got the Revere Derby. You 2 have got good next week. That's been a good game. I don't care.
Sure, the wheel will be in your favour one day, that's for sure.
It won't.
But honestly, I'm just going to say a big, massive thank you to all of you guys for coming in today. Thanks, Kieran D. Thanks, Kieran L. Thanks, Rodies. Got the glasses on. No doubt you'll be going straight outside. It's bloody lovely out there. No doubt We're all sweating and dying on the inside.
With his headphones on, it looks like he's going filming Top Gun.
But no, honestly, thank you so much for everybody that's joined. Hopefully, you'll be back next week. Of course, we'll be covering the games as always and our score predictions with the score table. But honestly, thank you so much. It's a very, very warm day. I think we're all sweating. So we'll be back on Saturday for our Bundesliga watch along live. That'll be 2 p.m. UK time, covering online games. But as for now, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.